Today, I'm going to show you how to add back pockets to almost anything. All of this can be done with minimal sewing skills and materials that you most likely already have on hand. And if you're brand new to sewing, you'll need two things. First is a sewing machine. I suggest the Singer HD. It's affordable, easy to use, and can handle most things that you'll throw at it. Number two, my wife teaches sewing and bag making for a living, so I suggest her Sewing 101 class. It's professional, easy to follow, and will save you a ton of time in the long run. I put links to both of these down below. All right, let's get to the project. I suggest starting this with a hoodie because the stakes are low and you most likely already have one. And this project works on both full zip and pullover hoodies. The next thing you'll need is an old t-shirt. The first step is to take our old t-shirts so we can cut the material for our back pockets. We're going to be using the bottom hem of our t-shirt as the top hem of our pockets. First, we have to measure and mark our pattern piece on the back of the t-shirt. We're cutting out a piece that is 15 inches wide by 7.5 inches tall. I'll start with the 7.5 down in 2 points and connect them at a width of 15 inches. To make these cut lines, a ballpoint pen will work. It can be a little hard to see on darker materials, but it does fit the bill. And if you want to level up and make it a little bit easier on yourself, Tailor's chalk is the way to go. It's easy to see on contrast materials and it's non-permanent. And now we can cut out our material. I will often cut out both sides of the t-shirt at the same time because this allows me to get 2 pockets for 1 cut. Now that we've cut out our pattern piece, we need to fold over the sides and the bottom of this piece. An iron makes this step 100 times easier and is highly suggested. So we're going to fold that piece of material roughly 1/2 inch. With the iron on the cotton setting, we're going to just slowly work along that edge and the iron will keep the fold in place. And that's why this is so helpful to do with an iron. Because once we've ironed down all of our edges, this is called the seam allowance, it will be so much easier to place onto the garment to sew into place. And I'm not worried if my seam allowance is a little bit over or under 1/2 inch. This is all an approximation. For me, sewing doesn't have to be exactly perfect. And if you don't have an iron and don't want to get one, you can do this by just finger pressing this seam allowance, but it's going to be much harder for you. Once our pocket is all pressed, we have to mark the lines for our divider pockets. And to do this, I measured the width of my pocket after the edges were ironed in and divided that by 3, then marked the pocket according to those calculations. And marking these dividers really helps keep a straight line when it comes time to sewing these lines on the garment. And to figure out where to place the pockets on the garment, I find it helpful to put the garment on and reach back to see what feels like a comfortable place for the top of the pocket to be. Mark that point with a little bit of chalk, then I'll place my pocket according to that marking, making sure to keep the pocket as centered on the garment as possible. Then we're going to pin the pocket into place. This is very important so the pocket doesn't move around when we're sewing it. And if you want, you can carefully put the garment on to make sure the pockets are in a place that feel right for you. After your pocket has been pinned in the right place, it's time to sew it. And we'll start sewing at the top right of the pocket, down, over, and ending at the top left. And remember to start and stop your stitches with a back tack. You learned about back tacks with the Sewing 101 class. Slow and steady, just take your time. This thing wants to go straight, so let it go straight. You're just lightly guiding it here and there. And don't worry, if you mess up, you can always undo stitches. All right, pocket sewn on. 2 more simple stitches to do. We're going to sew the dividers. We're going to start at the bottom of the pocket bag and sew up to the opening. This is so the material doesn't get bunched up at the bottom of the pocket bag. And remember to back tack your stitches. This is where you'll be very glad you put those divider lines on. Once you've finished your second divider line, you have officially completed your first back pocket garment transformation. This works for puffer jackets, fleece, riding jackets, pretty much everything. And I'm so curious to know what you're going to start putting pockets on. Let me know what that first project is. I'm dying to know. Now you know how to add back pockets to almost anything. But there's still one last thing I want to show you, and that's how to convert your plain, boring hoodie with a custom all-over print pattern.